Good morning and welcome to this virtual investor conference presentation from Uscom on record growth with blue sky ahead. I'm Professor Rob Phillips and I'll just give you some background on the company today. Uscom has delivered record growth in a challenging commercial world. Medical technology is a cornerstone of health and investment, and Ascom continues to execute a targeted global strategy of growth and expansion. While the future is uncertain, China, Uscom's major market, is rebounding as Uscom expands into Europe and the US. Uscom's created life-saving devices for all the major global markets, and now with new digitally health innovations to ensure revenue growth foreseeably. Uscom is becoming a global, vertically integrated medical technology leader. If we have an overview of Uscom, we can see it's an ASX-listed company. We've patented Apex technologies in cardiovascular and pulmonary disciplines. We've demonstrated high growth for the last 8 years and high margins, so increasing revenues convert quite quickly to profit. Q1 cash revenues were up 413%. We're profitable and cash flow positive and have cash in the bank and are debt-free. We also have a global vision and a global ambition with operations in Sydney, Singapore, Beijing, Budapest, and we have offices now in Auckland, London and Los Angeles. We are also on the cusp of new levels of growth because all our reported growth has been off the back of a single product across, or essentially a single product across multiple jurisdictions. But in the next 12 months, we expect 8 new products in 4 major jurisdictions. So it should have a significant impact quite rapidly, both on our revenue and on our profits. Just to review 2020 annual results, and what you can see here is a trend in cash receipts. We're up 36% for the year, 4.6 million receipts. CAGR for 8 years was 23%, including the worst year in marketing history over the last year. And we ended the year with nearly $2 million in hand. If we look now at the annual results in a little more detail, we can see cash receipts up 36%, sales up 29%, cash flow up over 2 million, cash on hand 1.9 mil, and we're debt-free. So the trends are all very positive, but more importantly, the second half was much more positive for us. The first half for us involved a global restructure of all our distribution networks. So the second half was basically the measure of the effectiveness of that restructure. And for the second half, we received over 3 million cash receipts, which was up 83% on the prior corresponding. Our sales revenues were up 57%, and we had net cash flow of 1.47 million. Profit was up 0.78 million. So it was profitable and cash flow positive in a very strong way for the second half of the year, which was Q3 and Q4. We've developed a global network, and so a lot of what we've received in revenues and support and funding has gone into expanding our platform to provide vehicles by which we can access our major jurisdictions, and we call these Southeast Asia, China, Europe, and the US, and peripheral markets outside of those. If we analyse where we actually sold our products, China remains the major Ascom market, and the Ascom 1A is the leading product. Now, this will change as regulatory approvals are received for BP Plus and Spirosonic devices, particularly in China. And we expect this over the next 12 months. But if we look at the current sales, 71% in China and Asia, 20% in Europe and US and other territories in the order of 9%. If we look at product, obviously the Ascom 1A is by far away the leading product. Spirosonic is starting to make some inroads into that, particularly now as pulmonary disease via COVID is becoming much more well recognised, and home monitoring using spirometry has really started to take off, with an expected market growth of 100% over the next 12 months. So that's also shifting to be our focus. But the big shifter, or the big driver, will be the regulatory approvals over the next 12 months. Uscom China has been a very important development for us. We own a wholly owned subsidiary in Chaoyang in Beijing, and since starting Ascom China in January of this year, each successive quarter, Ascom China has been profitable and driven the profitable cash flow position of Ascom. Teresa Guo is General Manager of Ascom China, and she's now been appointed Head of Global Operations, and Ascom 1A is the lead product. However, BP Plus and Spirosonic devices are in late stages of approval and will be heading into the market over the next 6 to 12 months. Sepsis, we're a medical device company, we're a medical technology company, and we pride ourselves in the change or the contribution we make to communities, and the safer we make the world. And the Ascom 1A was recommended by the SCCM for paediatric sepsis in the international guidelines, with 25% of the authors being Ascom users. Ascom, importantly, was recommended by the People's Republic of China government to treat severe COVID by the National Health and Medical Commission of the People's Republic of China. And this was really important. We've spent the last 15 years developing the Ascom 1A and its role in sepsis and septic shock. And we were actually initially approved into China for treatment of SARS. And this kind of recognition in such an important health crisis is important. It establishes bona fides. We are a real science company and we have real opportunities in the marketplace. As a result of our approval by the PRC, Ascom 1A was installed into more than 50 infectious disease centres in China. So we are having an impact, and this is now starting to spill over into Europe and the US as they deal with the immediate critical issues of COVID. Most countries, including China, Europe, and the US, are looking at means of establishing or expanding infectious disease centres, so that once COVID-19 becomes COVID-20 or 21, or we end up with a whole host of other infectious diseases that come back, as in the 1918 US flu, we will be better prepared for that. So Ascom will expect to be an important part of that preparation. Importantly, the regulatory processes have become more complex and time-consuming. Having said that, they are a process that we cannot control. We provide the information, we respond to the regulators, and we wait for their response. And we're currently in conversation, if you would like to put it that way, with the NMPA, which is the Chinese approval, CE, which is the European approvals, and the FDA, which is the US approvals. And NMPA is getting very close for the BP Plus, and we expect Spirosonic by early mid next year. Venti test product, which is our new ventilator testing technology, is not a medical product that directly treats patients, and so its path to market is quite rapid. We are in the later stages of developing marketing boxing. We've released the technology, we've finished testing on it, and we then have self-notification, and we are discussing now with distribution worldwide. Just as an overview of our products, we have the Spirosonic device, and we're about, we released this year the Spirosonic Air, which is a totally wireless technology, wireless charging, wireless communications to the My Air app, and that wirelessly connects to the Spiro Reporter software, so that you can carry your Spirosonic Air with you and at any time be in touch with expert treatment and diagnosis. Importantly too, in the last month or two, there's been some research which suggests that following severe infections with COVID, i.e. patients that actually require oxygenation, more than 17% of these patients have restrictive lung disease after 3 months. So we actually don't know what the long-term consequence is. COVID may leave us with a persistent deteriorating pulmonary fibrosis. We need to monitor this progress, and as part of that monitoring and progress, technologies like the Spirosonic Air will play an increasingly important part in providing both diagnostic information for patients, connecting that to experts worldwide, and determining what the best treatment is, and mapping out or better understanding what actually happens to the lungs as a consequence of the infection of COVID-19. So COVID-19 recovery spirometry is going to become a big deal over the next 12 months. And spirometry demand has been expected to double, or projected to double, in 12 months from 2.6 billion to 6.5 billion, and increase 160% over the next 6 years. We have the highest fidelity digital ultrasonic technology in this space, with many technical advantages over current technologies. CE is expected soon, and we are progressing through NMPA and FDA. The BP Plus and BP Plus reporter was released late in the last financial year. And again, this is sector-leading technology specialising in hypertension, and it provides 26 measures of cardiovascular function from each of 3 separate pulse pressure waves in the arm, in the aorta, and in the heart. And as you can imagine, in terms of understanding hypertension, it's the pressure at the heart that really matters. This is what determines our likelihood of organ failure. So it's, again, a standout technology, and is starting now to be recognised. We are partnering in the US with some of the biggest technology firms in the world, and doing early stage research. But this device will be in the market in a very short period of time. Just as a proof of the new standards of the BP Plus, I can show you here the central pulse pressure waveforms, and the comparison with a previous gold standard competitor. What you can see is, A, there are many more waveforms that we analyse, so we can average them, we can see how they change, and you can see the nuance of the waveform and the inflections of it. And this comes from the patent-protected suprasystolic oscillometric technology that we use. This is a very exciting technology and is on the International Space Station. So we're delighted that this will be coming into the market over the next 12 months. We are shipping them at the moment. The Venti test device, which was basically a response to the COVID increase in ventilators, critical care ventilators. And what's really important is that ventilators require calibration. They are basically a pump, and if the pump doesn't function accurately, then the measured dose of oxygen and the pressure and the volume and the flow may be inappropriate. And if you've got heavily inflamed lungs, as many of these COVID patients have, putting the pressure and the flow too high may cause disastrous consequences. And something like 90% of the patients from New York who had ventilators as treatment for their severe COVID actually died. So the actual benefit, or how to use ventilators, needs some further investigation, and it certainly depends on correctly calibrated technology, and that's exactly what the Venti test and the Venti Test S software is designed to do. Provide simple, rapid testing for ventilators, which can then determine whether they're operating in acceptable standards and ranges. The Ascom products, importantly, if we look, we've got the Uscom, the Spirosonic, we've talked about the BP Plus and the Venti test, and we've just recently released the Blue Sky Ascom eHealth ecosystem concepts. These are means of bringing together the power of our digital technologies. Venti, Spirosonic, Uscom and BP Plus are all digital technologies. And what's powerful about that is that they can be wirelessly transferred to the cloud and then processed to provide artificial intelligence for diagnosis, metadata, licensing of the information, cloud services of diagnosis and therapy, pay-per-use operation by subscribers, rental, subscription partnerships, data licensing, sales research, third-party rentals for access to the ecosystem. The cloud is the way to deliver services. And although we've been involved in this for 10 years, it's only become feasible in the last few years to actually look at delivery methods which match up to other platforms. And so we've embarked on the Blue Sky Ascom eHealth ecosystem, which will umbrella all of our digital technologies and provide a plugin for third-party vendors to join and commit their digital inputs also. What's important is that this has been a part of what we've been doing. We have developed 4 digital technologies over the last 10 to 15 years. We've probably invested $10 million in developing the digital transfer and health platform. And that's come from our current cash flows. So that's already been invested. We have world-leading non-invasive digital cardiac, vascular and pulmonary sensors. And digital e-health really depends on the quality of the sensors. We have got the best quality front-end sensors. It doesn't matter how often you measure some of the less important peripheral digital measures that some e-health vendors provide. You can't analyze it enough to provide the same sort of information that we can provide from central cardiovascular pulmonary monitoring. So it's really about the quality of the sensors, and our sensors are the best. While everybody's doing e-health, doing it with good quality sensors is absolutely vital for results. We've got 5 devices, 3 apps, 3 software platforms, and they are registered and in clinical use. We've got international e-health partnerships with major technology companies worldwide. We're in a number of European Euro grants and in the fields of hypertension, asthma, COPD, vascular health, heart failure, lung transplantation, to name a few. Our ambition is really to use the Blue Sky eHealth ecosystem to leverage our world-leading digital technologies into cloud-based Ascom eHealth ecosystem. It will deliver the power of our digital cardiovascular pulmonary sensors and will deliver their benefits worldwide. The growth drivers for 2021 really are very simple. Market growth, China rebounding, Europe and US to come, Southeast Asia headquarters established, and I'm in Singapore at the moment discussing distribution opportunities with a number of very competent and substantial groups. So market growth, more distributors. We will be appointing more distributors, particularly in China, but both new European and US distribution models have already been implemented. Their effectiveness has been delayed, of course, by the COVID intervention. And we hope that as Europe and the US emerge from the COVID pandemic, that our distribution models will start to gain traction and start to deliver to the marketplace. We're already seeing this, and there are new orders starting to come out of both of these territories, principally related immediately to COVID, but also to many of our other clinical applications. So our new products, Spirosonic and BP Plus approval for China and the US, Venti Test and Venti Test S sales worldwide, and our Blue Sky eHealth ecosystem will set in place a recurrent digital cloud-based revenue for the company. So in summary, our fundamentals are strong and growing. We've got a long history, or 8-year history. We are profitable and cash flow positive, 4.6 million cash receipts in 2020. We are apex technology providers and developers, cardiovascular and pulmonary. These are critical areas of health. We have multiple devices and multiple clinical applications. We have already global regulatory approvals. We're embedded in China and experiencing the benefits of that recovery. We've got approvals for 8 new devices over the next 12 months in 4 territories. And the new Blue Sky e-health system is a future that will significantly leverage the power of our technologies and leverage those into revenue. So the story for Uscom is very simple: record growth with blue sky ahead. Some important news to justify or validate the progress of the company is the 4C results for Q1. And what you can see is our sales revenue was up 413% on the prior corresponding. Cash receipts up 83%. Cash increased. Profit was up. So we were profitable and cash flow positive for the first 3 quarters of this calendar year. So record growth with blue sky. Ascom continues to deliver record growth with blue sky ahead. New products, new distribution, recovering global markets, and the new blue sky e-health ecosystems will fuel our ongoing growth with recurring revenues. Uscom's created the digital cardiovascular and pulmonary sensors of the future, and blue sky will deliver their benefits worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob. We've just got a few questions that have come through. First question is, what are the aspirations for FY21 and FY22 revenues, and what percentage is lumpy earnings and annuity?
Look, I think when we report Q1 sales up 413%, I wouldn't like to project too much, particularly coming out of the COVID period. It's unpredictable. However, having said that, it's unpredictable in a positive way from our point of view. Our technologies are a part of COVID recovery, and they will also be a part of the health systems that survive the COVID period as we return to normal. So precise guidance, I'm not in a position to say. You can look at the past and try and predict the future, and I think growth is certainly a part of what we're doing at the moment, and we are particularly optimistic as the new products come through. But even on the basis of the current existing trade that we have, the Q1 results tell us that we're heading in the right direction.
Great, thanks, Rob. 2 linked questions. Where are all the products made, and is there any supply problems?
We are in transition phase as we move from niche manufacturer, and we needed to do that to make sure that we had quality control over all of our technology. We make the Uscom 1A and the BP Plus in Sydney. Having said that, we acquire boards and components from all around the world, much of it from China. The Spirosonic technologies are manufactured in Budapest. We bought the Budapest company 5 years ago. And to this stage, with the demands that we have, that's where we're planning to stay. However, we are definitely looking forward to considering how we deal with the levels of demand that we're now anticipating, and that will probably involve international manufacturing on a much larger scale. So from a management's point of view, that's what we're focused on at the moment in pure operational terms. We will need to look at upscaling that. Supply chain seems so far to be uninterrupted to our supply.
And next question, where do you see the company's biggest opportunities?
At the moment, we have such a wealth of opportunities. it's quite challenging. We've got the Uscom 1A remains to be a powerful foundation for all infectious diseases. Worldwide, hospitals, medical centres, systems are being upgraded to provide for the pandemics of the future, and Ascom will definitely be a part of that. We are recommended in that. China is very important for us. It's very powerful. And once we get BP Plus and Spirosonic into China, that will be transformational, particularly when the incidence of lung disease in China is so high and increasing. Not much different to the rest of the world, but it comes off a base of 1.4 billion people and a very aspirational health investment system in China. So Spirosonic, BP Plus in Europe and in the US. We're getting a lot of interest now from BP Plus and Spirosonic in the US, particularly for post-COVID recovery, lung monitoring, and for home care systems that are telemetrically or e-health connected. So what's our most emergent opportunity? We've got a constellation of them, and we will be doing our best to make sure that none of them slip through without being fully exploited.
And just the last question, Rob, how many salespeople does Ascom have? Where are they? And is there any need to scale up any further?
Absolutely. You can never have enough feet on the ground. Having said that, we tend not to do direct sales because sales globally is a very high cost activity, and it's much better to form relationships with distributors and dealers who have unique connections to certain small areas. In China, for example, some of the distributors have relationships with 1 or 2 or 3 hospitals, and it's the same in the US now too, increasingly, and that is dealers have very tight territories, and it's impossible for us to go and compete against those guys all across the US. So what we do is commission-based partnerships with these people, and they're always in need of high quality technologies to sell. And because we're cardiovascular pulmonary, there will always be the demand for high quality technologies that we're creating and the novel delivery systems that we're developing with the Blue Sky e-health ecosystem. So we tend to use distribution model wherever we go, and we adapt to whatever the culture of both the country and the region might be.
Great. That concludes the Q&A. Rob, I'll hand it back to you for closing remarks, and we'll finish up there. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And it's a very exciting time for Ascom as we get this convergence of our products coming to market across many different jurisdictions, which will be over the next 12 months. And as the questioner identified, our challenge is how do we look at scale up, and whether that be manufacturing or distribution. It's a very active time for us. Regardless, we look forward to the results over the next 12 months. So thank you for your interest in Uscom, and follow us closely. It'll be an exciting period.
Thanks very much, Rob, and thanks all for joining.